There we go.
Hi,
Let-
hi Kalyan.
How are you? Let me finish
I'm fine.
answering this one question that this guy asked if I was a practicing Hindu, and I wanted to respond to that by saying I understand how one could practice being a Hindu, and I understand that there are practices involved with it. However, I think if one looks at the tradition of it, it is a worldview and an understanding of the world, and practice, though it can be a part of it, is not necessary. I think traditionally you see that atheists are Hindus as well. Everybody can, and I think in the traditional sense, I am a Hindu, but in some sort of more any sort of practicing sense, and in a more dogmatic sense of what it has become, I am not what it has become. No, so
Yeah, are you also saving this podcast because I'm sending you many requests on my account, but uh,
I
I
I
don't know what
don't know
happened.
why for a moment I even joined on yours because you started it, and for a minute I was even in it, and then it cut me out. But I don't know. I'll save it and I'll send it to you when it's done, so you can do whatever you want. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So, my first question is can you share a bit about your background, how you started and how you started your artistic journey?
Yeah, I began uh, as an artist very young. I think I was 2 years old that I became uh, obsessed with art. My father described me drawing and drawing and drawing and trying to perfect things. Even at 2, I started with a circle, and I can remember even my earliest memories are of making art. And then I quit for a long time. I would only do it in school, but on my own, I had no inclination until I was about 27, and that's when I began my professional um, career. I said, I initially thought there could be a point in doing this if I made money on it, but I didn't want to make art just for the money. It had to be something honest and something true that I then sold. But I said that would be a good excuse to do it as an adult because I'm a person who I think I would prefer to have the hobby of gardening or something like that than a hobby of art. So,
So, what's your background also? I think you half Indian and half American.
correct. Yeah. My mother is from the States, although at 19, I think she moved to India because she married my father then. And so she speaks Hindi fluently and lived there for many years.
You
In my
also know Hindi.
No, I lived there much less time. I stopped. I think I knew Hindi till I was 6, and now I don't know uh, any. When I
Can,
started
can you say Namaste India?
Namaskar, that's that. No, I know. So when people start speaking Hindi, it's amazing how things come back that I'll know what they're talking about, and I'll know the thing they're saying. But somebody say, "What does this word mean?" I say, "I don't know." But it's enough that it's in my brain somehow or the other. I'd be able to explain what a conversation was about, but I would not be able to tell you
Speak.
what the words meant. Yeah, I don't know why.
You understand properly.
Not fully, but I know what is happening. I'll say that.
Okay, great. So your father is also artist.
No, he was a mathematician. Yeah, he was a mathematician. And my mother was a PhD in philosophy. He was a PhD in mathematics, which I actually view mathematics as one of the most creative endeavors. So if we're talking about creativity, I see much of my creativity coming from him. I see my process of understanding and my process of output actually mirroring his very much. I remember watching him work when I was young, and my work happens in almost the same way. So yes, I think although he was a mathematician, I see it as being very much the same.
So how you learn art? Are you doing some? You are going to art schools, and what is the
I think
process you are learning?
it was my own. Uh, it was my own inclination that led me to doing art. I did take art classes in school, but I never took them seriously. I viewed it as I'm not trying to elevate myself beyond what other people were. I'm just speaking to my mindset at the time when I was young. I viewed it as if someone was like, for example, if we took the idea of mathematics, somebody was a great mathematician taking algebra class. So I would take introduction to two-dimensional art, and I could already draw photorealistically, and I was just having fun. It was just whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I saw your artworks. You are breaking many rules in composition, like focal point, and you are making many things in one painting. First of all, your paintings are very large, and you making many things. So what? Uh, how do you manage it? Like, what is my focal point, and uh, how do you manage?
That's actually, yeah, that's an amazing question, and nobody has ever asked me before. But I think about this every so often, and I don't believe in the rules. I never learned them. And when I see people talk about them, I think it's ridiculous. Um, there are certain rules,
Yes,
technical rules.
like golden ratio.
No, I don't believe all those things. I don't believe in. By that I mean, if you want to draw something in perspective, for example, then there's a way of doing that. Or if the light is coming from here, then the shadow must be below. Simple.
Yes.
But compositional rules have always been something that bothered me. And in my work, I believe in and this has been, the rules were thrown out a long time ago when people moved into abstraction and so on, and just gestural painting and so on. But in figurative, people still tend to come back to the rules. And I don't like them. So my way of composing is to simply go by feel. I believe, and others may disagree because my compositions are often extremely chaotic, but it is purposeful to do it that way. But I believe my composition is actually very good. But I go entirely by the feel of what I'm doing. In the end, if one were to draw a grid or measure it out, you'll always see everything is off center and not quite right. There's no rule of thirds or any type of thing like that. And I like it that way. I don't want it to be easy to digest. I want it to be organic, the way the world is. And yes, the world is scientific and physics can be applied to anything and so on. But when we see things, our eyes do not process them that way. The world seems to be a tangle and a mess. And I want to show it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So what's your focal point? How you decide this is my focal point? Like, I think you make the bigger. Like, this is you decide this is my focal point and you make this bigger. I think it's true. With another
How do I decide? Yeah. I don't know how I decide the focal point. I think I believe that there's a lot of theories on how the eye moves around a canvas. And I have never understood those things very much either. I think intrinsically I have some understanding. And what I try to do is not create movement of the eye, but to create movement on the actual canvas. So I'm not thinking so much about focal point, but I'm thinking about movement and how, if something goes like this, we feel like the canvas moves that way. And then what is over there once you move that way? And so the eye may follow the movement that I create on the canvas, but I want there to be a feeling of urgency in my painting. I want people to look at it and not feel as though it is static, a static image that is boring. I want them to feel like the chaos, and that, but a type of chaos which
you also manage the weight, like
yes,
what in composition.
yeah, yeah.
So your art often combines Indians and Greek gods like Christian and like Jesus and many Greek gods, which is quite controversial. Can you explain the concepts and message behind these paintings?
I often don't understand my own motivations. Since I'm not a religious person and I don't have a religious agenda, uh, I don't know why it was my inclination to move in that direction. When I was 27, as I said, I became an artist, and my first piece that I did was a self-portrait, and the second piece was a cross between Vishnu and Jesus. And I don't know why I did it. Looking back, it seemed obvious to me to do that. But why such a thing should be obvious to a non-Christian and to somebody who has no real dogmatism? If you live with me in my everyday life, I am very much not thinking about religion. Why this is a continual thing that I must make is almost beyond me. But it seems as though the thing that I must do. One thing I can comment on is that my artwork is a amalgamation of all types of things, from pop culture to movies to anything that is recognizable. And when we juxtapose these things, we find a new meaning. And perhaps the most powerful meanings that can be found for the human race are in their religious beliefs. And I associate myself more with the Hindu belief, so those things are going to come in consistently. And I grew up in a country which is primarily Christian, and I see these things everywhere, and it's something that I have studied in my life. So then it was just natural for my brain to put these two things together. And why it's doing that over and over, I think, is for different ends depending on the piece. Never is it to make some sort of jab. The way people get upset with me, they think it's controversial, I'm doing it on purpose. There's never any type of thing like that. But it is to make some point. And why it happens is completely beyond me. I do not know why I continually come back.
So you don't study Mahabharata and Gita and the Bible. You don't study.
I study it very deeply, actually. Yes, I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's of a tremendous interest to me. But I say it's not a part of my everyday life. It's not something I talk about with my wife. I'll bring these ideas up to my children a little bit, but it's not. I don't have idols sitting in my house or statues. One or two little things, Ganesh here and there, whatever, but nothing very serious that you would think that this would be what I make when I make artwork. Yeah.
Right. Your many paintings are very taboo. Very controversial, and what USA audience think about your painting, and what I know what Indian people think about that. They are very critical, doing in your comments, doing many bad things, saying you. So, what's about USA?
In the United States, I think what I'm doing is not understood at all, because I think if you look at the history of modern Indian art, we see Ravi Varma. We see more recently, we see more recently MF Hussein. Yeah, both in the last 150 years created controversy with what they have done. Yeah. And I see my work as somewhat of an extension of that. But I think in another 100 years, what I'm doing will be accepted. Because if you look at what I'm doing, I'm making, God is in all things and in all forms. And that is definitely a part of what I'm saying. I would say my artwork has more secular ideas than spiritual ideas, despite using spiritualism to make those points. But I think the spiritual aspect of pointing out that God is in all things is a part of that. And I think that should be an accepted part of Hindu art. I think if somebody puts Star Wars with Krishna, it should be accepted. Of course, it's obvious. The moment you think of it, it's obvious. not just Star Wars, but anything, and everything. A blade of grass. It's obvious. Um, so I think it'll be accepted, but I see myself as part of that lineage more than I see myself as a part, unconsciously, by mistake, more of a part of that lineage than I see my part of any as a part of any Western lineage. So I think here they don't understand what I'm doing, and they like it, but they don't quite see the full scope of it. Yeah.
So, do you think controversy is better for artists? Like artists become more famous.
Yeah, it for sure can be. Unfortunately for me, in the case of this controversy, India is the one country in the world with a huge number of billionaires, and none of them purchase any type of art. There is no art culture in India in the same way that there is in China, in Europe, in the United States. So you don't have these. In India, I hear over and over from collectors, it's the same 10, 12 artists that are bought. And these are the classic artists that we all know of Indian descent. And then many of the Indian artists who become famous and are Indian in the 21st century, they become famous in Europe or in the United States. And for making work which I see as slightly separate from the Indian experience, and it amazes me that I am here in the United States and my work is resonating, even though it's resonating often in a negative way, let's say 50-50, that I think my work is reflecting more of an Indian experience than the Indian artists of the 20th century who are becoming famous in Europe. I think, what the fuck are they doing? Excuse my language. This has nothing to do with anything. And they are, and because if you look at European and American art, it truly has nothing to do with anything. These people are talking about often nothing, very surface things. When you take away spirituality, then below it, there's nothing there. And that's what's happened in here. Yeah.
So, what are some of the technical and artistic challenges you face when you're working in large paintings? What is the process, your full process? Like you making some little thumbnail sketches before paint bigger size of paintings?
I used to begin with a thumbnail sketch, I'll tell you, and then I would build it into something larger. Now, what I found was that took too long. I talk often about a piece that I worked on for 19 months, and I think it sold for so little money that I would have been better off working at McDonald's that whole time, and I would have earned twice as much money. So I said, this is not the way. I have children and everything. I said, this is not the way to do this. Now, my process is very different. My intellectual process happens entirely in Photoshop and composition. I combine all the elements in Photoshop. I think it through. It takes a long time, that part of it. And often I'll be working on several things at the same time. Once the composition is done there, I paint. It's a paint by numbers process. I paint exactly as on the screen, because otherwise it takes too long. If I'm painting and I say, oh, it would be good there, and I start changing and I say, oh, but now I have that there. What do I put in? It takes forever. Everything is ready. I put it on the canvas. I'm able to make a lot of work that way. There could be some criticism of that process, but it is practical. And I am at heart a pragmatic person, so I do it that way. A lot of time goes into the composition, not as much time goes into the execution. It cannot.
So, like you're doing very big paintings, and do you think size is matter in painting?
The answer is no.
Yeah.
The size does not matter. But as you see with my composition, I have a tendency to go crazy. Every 1,000 things in it. And I think it's my basic nature to express myself that way. And so then big seems good too. Like, let's make it as big as possible and put as many things in it as possible. and I like that. There's something
because you make many things in one painting. You can't make this in little painting and many things.
Yeah,
So, so I think size doesn't matter. I think matter is your thought, like which thought and what type of thoughts you want to paint. Like painting say you make me this figure. Painting say you the size. This is my size. Paint to me.
my favorite artist in the world is Kathy Kollwitz. I mean, she's been dead for 100 years, but she was a German expressionist, and she would paint these beautiful, or draw, it was mostly print work, these beautiful portraits of people, just small. I've seen them in person. They're, kind of not large. And I think this person, this is God is speaking through her. Now, I mean God, not in some, I mean, how an atheist could say it the same way. It's there. The human experience, the universe is there. The things that we can't describe but are inside all of us that we live with. The pain of love, why is that there? All these things are in her work. The pain of existence, they're this big. So size doesn't matter. It's just the expression of the person. I happen to make,
Like many people think like that. I paint bigger and they give me a lot of money for.
right. Yeah.
So they're wrong.
Maybe that's the case.
Yeah.
But it's still wrong.
Okay. So next question. So where do you find your inspiration? This large scale of artworks and what's your inspiration basically? I think your inspiration is Kalki God.
Yeah. Kalki comes into my work quite a lot. I think because of the times that we're living in. And, this idea that people have lost respect for others, have become dishonest, have actually come to respect dishonesty. All these types of ideas, I think, have been a shock to me in my life. I'm surprised, not because I grew up in some idyllic situation, but because I think of my basic nature, and I think it's the basic nature of everybody. We are shocked when we are hurt, even if it happens time and time again. We're shocked and so the world consistently is a surprise to me, and that we do not care about the world, and we have no connection to anything natural. So Kalki comes consistently into my work as a metaphor and as a real thing. It is real in my mind, but it is also a metaphor for these larger issues. So yeah, he is both an inspiration and a muse that I consistently return to. Yeah.
So I saw your one painting and I think it's a digital painting. You make this painting and you showing the like Sudarshan Chakra in the middle finger of that.
Oh,
So what is about that finger? Yeah. What is the message of this painting? Why you don't choose another finger?
well, clearly that finger is chosen for, but I actually don't know why. I don't know why I made that piece that way. That's the honest answer.
Because I saw the comments
Yeah.
and
Yes. Many people were upset by that.
silent, angry on you.
Yeah. And I understand, but it's like I say over and over, these people, they've misunderstood the nature of their own beliefs. And I am certain if Krishna was to appear before me at this moment, this would not be the issues that we would talk about. That
I think
talk about.
God didn't know about the middle finger.
Yeah. It makes no difference.
Yeah. So how you handle this kind of hate, like many Indian people's hates you, how you handle them, and
Uh,
what's your advice for them?
what's my what?
What's
Advice for them?
your advice for them?
Yeah. I often do give advice to them. I say it simply because they don't really want to hear what I have to say. But I tell them they need to evaluate their own, and they need to understand the things that they believe more. Um, I don't. I'm not upset by them. My personal feeling. I'm not upset by it, and um, I'm not angry with them or any type of thing like that. And I actually understand where they're coming from because I see it as short-sightedness on their part. I do not view them as children, but I view that belief almost as like a child.
Yeah.
A child doesn't understand something. You cannot be upset with them. So in other ways, these people may be well-rounded and more knowledgeable than me. I don't know. But in this particular way, they clearly have not understood something. So I think, I always think that Hindu beliefs are not a belief of dogmatism. The moment that there's dogmatism attached to it, then you lost the thread. There's something lost. And I was saying this, I think, before we went live together, that I see this as a part of a political change more than anything else. In India, I think there's been a political revolution in the past 20, 25 years. And that is, although this subset of people have always existed, now it's much stronger, and they're using this, what I would describe as fear for political ends. So it's unfortunate, and I hope that it subsides eventually.
So you face both culture. You saw both cultures, like Indian culture and USA culture, USA art culture and Indian art culture. So what is the difference between, like and also USA artists, what they think about Indian artists?
I think the U.S. artists that get something from Indian art are often what I would describe as appropriating the surface to their ends. Here in the United States, you'll see people that call themselves spiritual, and they'll do things like paint Vishnu or whatever. I'm not talking about people who are actually Hindu. I'm speaking about, people who have come to this and see. And simultaneously, they'll say things like, oh, I like witches and whatever. And they'll have like crystals and all kinds of things like that. And these things are somewhat unrelated to what I understand. And so they'll take only the surface of Indian art, and there's no understanding there. As far as the culture of art in the United States, I would say it is more advanced than not advanced in terms of the deep history of thousands of years, but advanced in the current ecosystem than the culture of art in India. And like I said, this is not talking about the history and what is happening, but just the moment. And that is because I think we live in a society, both here and in India, in the world, where money must be involved, because in order to be an artist, it does take a certain amount of time. The true artist will be able to work in a factory, and that passion exists. They must make art. They must. It's an imperative, and they'll be great. But there's some, and I view myself as one of these, where you must sit there, and things are not obvious, and you must consider the world in order to make things, and that's simply not possible when your boss is telling you, I'm going to need this by 5 o'clock today, and that doesn't work. And I think the money doesn't exist in the same way. So in this moment, I wish that the money, the people with money in India would support the young artist and the
Yes,
gallery.
yes.
So, and there would become a system, because I think the untapped resources of India are greater than the untapped, in terms of art, are greater than the untapped resources of any other country on earth. If we look at China is not untapped, but you see what they're doing in contemporary work, and then the deep history they have with art and how it's all tying together. It's incredible. And India has the same depth of culture and history, very different than China.
Yes.
And it's completely untapped. And I think that's unfortunate.
Yes. Could you share could you share some insights into the preference and thinking of art buyers in the United States? What is the
What do they
thinking?
think?
Yeah, what they think?
I think it's varied. And I think there's different movements. If I look at art in the Western world right now, I think it's tied primarily to the concept of identity. So I think one could say that a little bit about me. I have an Indian background. My art reflects that. But that is not truly the point of my art. The point of my art is not to talk about me. But I think, for example, if you're an African American artist, then your experience here is central, often in the people who are making it famous, to what you have to say. And there are a lot of great artists who are speaking to that experience. So I think identity is central to art in America right now. I think that the greatest artists will always have something fundamental to say, even if they're speaking about identity or speaking about abstract or whatever. Yeah, there'll always be something fundamental to the nature of humanity in that work. You see the truth. Anybody can look at it and know. You don't have to be from the United States and understand culture of the United States. So within this current movement, the cream will rise up, and we'll remember them, and the people who are just following a lead we won't remember. But I would say that is one of the major things that's happening. Women are making art, and that's one of the primary things that we think about in their art, that this is a woman who's made this. And it's the same with any movement. There's people who are great who are doing that, and there's people who are not so good. They don't have anything to say. That's all they have to say. Well, I'm a woman. Well, that's not much of a statement. But if somebody says I'm a woman, and you look at it and you say, oh, I see that there's something there, and it could even feel like the same thing. Somebody could even write on the canvas, I'm a woman, and one person does it, and you think, oh, there's nothing there, and another person writes the exact same damn thing, and you think, holy shit, this is the real deal. But I think identity is very central to Western art right now. That's what I think. And like I said, one might even be able to see it in mine, since it is reflecting these roots. Yeah, and I think that's what's happening.
Yeah. So how do you see the future of art, and what changes or trends do you in the art world you see?
Well, there's these technological changes. I think that's the place to start.
Are you using also AI?
Yeah, I've used some AI. I don't get the same joy from it. I think part of my not getting the joy from it is actually an interesting thing. I think my work takes reference from everywhere and then is created. And the funny thing is, that's what AI does. It's doing the same thing I'm doing. But once it's created, that work has no meaning. It doesn't have the same meaning of, and maybe in the future it will. We'll remember early AI works, and it'll be attached to whoever made it, and it had this cultural significance, but at this time it does not. When I see a piece of AI art, it simply exists and has nothing to it. But when I see a piece of art made by a person, I'm able to, there's a frame of reference, and they made it in this context, and we know these things. And so there's a depth to it. And so I don't get much out of the AI art. I think things will move in that direction. I think movies will be made with AI. I think everything will move in that way. In the same way that now anybody can be famous because we have social media, I think anybody will be able to make a movie. And the movie studios may diminish slightly in their their power because we might be able to make something as spectacular as a Scorsese movie on a computer or on a phone, and just by typing. And but beyond the technological, art always moves with the people, and it's very hard to predict where that will go. I hope that despite these technological
Agree of this thing like AI replaced the artist, like many people saying, oh, AI replaced the artist, AI is coming, AI is coming. Do you think it's true? AI replaced the artist? Do you agree?
can to a large extent. I don't agree.
Yeah.
Because an artist is speaking about
Yeah.
the soul. Yes, whether or not they know it, even if it's the most secular work you've ever seen in your life, they had to make that. There was no reason for them to do it. They had to make that. It came from in them, and now it is there. Yeah. And the AI cannot replace that.
Yeah. Yes, because like buyer also want to painting like some human make them, not AI. Like human touch
Come to the
is
point.
important.
It may come to the point, but if you look at the high end of the art world, it already is this. But it may come to the point that when you go to see art, the art that most of us will see will be from IKEA. It'll be AI bullshit that you put together, and it'll just be. But the art that the true people want will be handmade. Always, handmade is always.
Yes.
Today. Yeah.
So I want some rapid fire questions. So
Okay.
what's your favorite artistic techniques or medium to work with?
Drawing with pen.
Drawing and pen.
Mm-hmm.
I think
My favorite
is oil painting. You say, and canvas.
Oil and canvas has such a deep history that I move in that direction. But my favorite to do is pen. I like it.
Yeah. Are you also using lead white in paintings because it's very toxic?
Or no, I do not.
Titanium white.
Yeah. You know what?
Oh, so which type of brands are you using in your paintings?
It's funny. I don't have. I know many artists have a specific brand that they keep coming back to, but I don't. I'll use Winsor and Newton. I use a brand called Lucas, Lukas, because that's my son's name. And I go back to that often. Yeah, I'll use anything. I don't care. Yeah.
So, is there a dream project or subject you love to explore through your art? Any your dream project? What do you, if you in your future?
I want to do the universal form of Krishna. To me,
Universal form of Krishna.
Yeah, I've done a few variations, but to me, I'd like to do a definitive version. But I don't.
Like the form we saw, like many heads of Krishna and many hands.
Yeah.
So you make this another style, you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's ever been explored properly, because if you read the passage and try to think, what does this mean? It doesn't mean just a man with many heads. That's ridiculous. It's a simple way of doing it. It's a beautiful way of doing it. It's an amazing way of depicting it. But once we've established that way exists, the artist must then think, but look at the passage and think, what else can be done? Yet artists continually come back to the same thing. And I think, let's find another way.
Yeah, I also think about that painting. Like, I want to also paint this Krishna massive painting and this Maharopa, I think.
Yeah.
So Vishwaropa, I think. So, but I don't find any idea of this. Like, I do them in tech-sec, I do them in realistic. So, What's your idea about that? You are doing them realistic and or you're
I,
doing some exception.
I've done two versions. No, they would be realistic.
Yeah.
I posted one, maybe my last post on Instagram. It has children's book characters. And then below it, you see a war. But I bet I didn't post it in the thing.
Because if you were making this painting, you're doing many things in one
Yeah.
paintings.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, but I would like to do that. And then another thing I'd like to do is to do more traditional styles of Indian art. If that's just technical, I'd like to move and to understand traditional styles. Yeah. Because I grew up looking at the things on my wall. They would hang these big tapestries with all the illustrations. And I would just sit there and look at them for hours. I remember. And those things are inside my mind. And I'd like to do work like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and how do you overcome the creative blocks or find the inspiration when you feeling stuck?
I think I talk a lot about God and about spirits, the soul and everything. And I mean that in the truest sense, without any sort of attachment to anything in particular. You see what I'm saying? But so to return to that idea, the way I do it is faith. Like clearly there's something inside of me. So it'll happen. I never, and I feel frustration. It's not that I don't feel frustration and things like that, but I realize that even that is part of that frustration will make the new thing happen, make a new piece come out. So I just know that there'll be more work. It's just a matter of moving.
So if you are art had a soundtrack, what would it be?
Oh, I think I do not know. That's a great question. I'll have to think about that. I don't know. And maybe somebody else is better suited than me to answer that.
So who is your favorite artist?
I think it's Kathy Kolovitz. When I was young, I really liked Chuck Close. I thought he was fantastic. Less now that I'm older. I think he was a great artist, but I don't have any feeling about it. Let's see who else. By young, I mean I think I was like 8, 9 years old when I loved Chuck Close. When I started loving Chuck Close. Let's see who else. Contemporary artist. What's that guy's name? There's an artist represented by Gagosian that I really like, and his name is just an abstract artist. His name has escaped me, but yeah,
Picasso, then
he's contemporary. You know, he's a contemporary abstract artist. Mark Bradford. He's fantastic.
if your art if your art was a superhero, so what would its superpower be?
Well, I think the superpower, my art would be a mirror. That's
Mirror.
power.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a mirror.
If you could have dinner with any artist, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I don't know. I think you should never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah.
So I think I think I would pick somebody. I think I would pick somebody who I don't even care about, like Damien Hirst. Like, why not? And then it would be funny, and that'd be the end of that. That's somebody I really cared about.
Like you are such a nice person.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice person.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So all questions are over.
Okay. Did you have anything else?
So thank you, Kalyan, joining us and make us make our day beautiful.
Thank you very
So
much. I will save this and I'll send it.
yeah, yeah,
There's a beginning part,
definitely.
which you may want to chop off if you
Yeah,
upload to
I
YouTube.
got it. So thank you again. Thank you again, Kalyan. Thank you. And make this kind of paintings. Like your paintings are very beautiful and you are doing lots of hard work in one paintings and lots of hard you done in oil painting. You making large paintings and making many things in one paintings.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much.
Till next time.